If you are interested in some pointers on taking kids to a climbing gym for the first time, you have come to the right video. This is the Climber Dad channel. Let's get into it. While we are discussing this topic, there's a few things that I need to do around here, and I'm going to go ahead and talk about that while I do these things. One of those things is telling you who I am. Why should you even listen to me? I built my first climbing wall in 1995, I believe. Maybe it was 96, somewhere in there. It's been a while. That was a home climbing wall. And I have been designing and building that ever since then. I built professional walls for a little while with a company called Rockworks, and I even owned and operated my own climbing gym. I was also a youth coach, and I also brought people in, working at the front desk at a climbing gym, bringing people in and giving them that orientation on what to do when you're at the climbing gym over and over again, 100 times a day. That gives you something to talk about. So I'm going to help you be successful when you get to the climbing gym, while you're at the climbing gym. First, I got to clean this up. One of the things that you need to do before you go to the climbing gym, fill out the waiver for everyone at home. When you're filling out that waiver, usually it's going to ask you for an email address. And I know people do not want to give out your own email address because marketing. And yes, climbing gyms will usually add, I never did, but most climbing gyms seem to add that to their marketing. It's easy to opt out after the first email though. But you do need to have a working email address on that waiver so you can confirm that. Otherwise, it's going to go out into this database and you're going to have to fill it out again when you get there. One of the things that's going to make you super successful and make your kids more happy when they're at the climbing gym, and they're not going to like it at first, but it will work better for you and your kids, is go over the rules of the climbing gym before you get there. Because once you get to the climbing gym, kids can be super excited, especially those high energy kids, which a climbing gym is great for. But once they're in the climbing gym, they're a little bit too excited to think about those rules, and they just want you to stop yapping so they can start climbing. So go over those rules before you go to the climbing gym. You don't have to go over them in full detail, just read through them. And the one that I would say to emphasize, which is in every single climbing gym's rules, is no running. Running can be super dangerous when you're at the climbing gym because you can get into someone else's fall zone unexpectedly and get landed on. That's not a good thing. We'll talk about that a little bit more. This is looking pretty good. I got to figure out a holder for these up here on my French cleat wall. Next pointer, what to wear. You're going to want to wear clothing that allows you to move. Not necessarily shorts. A lot of people love wearing shorts to the climbing gym. My preference is not. I like to wear loose pants that I can move in, and a shirt. Like that's it. It doesn't have to be anything super special. I would say wear thin socks to the climbing gym. And that gets into the climbing shoes. This is a rental. Most of the time, you are going to be required to wear climbing shoes on the climbing wall. This is for sanitary purposes, to try to keep the holds safer, cleaner, not safer, I guess kind of safer. Think about what you step in with your regular street shoes. There can be a lot of germs and nasty stuff. We don't want that on the climbing wall. So we try to keep climbing shoes only on the wall. We also don't want to have bare feet on the wall because, you know, some people's hygiene might not be as good as others. Yeah, including mine. I can be a dirty guy, and I don't want to be sharing my germs with you, and vice versa. Like, let's get real. So that's all that you need to do before you go to the gym. Now, what about when you get to the gym? Okay, when you get to the gym, you're going to check in, obviously. That's going to be the first thing that needs to happen. Right after that, I would turn to the kids, your group, and say, who needs to use the restroom? Before you get your climbing shoes all situated, before the orientation, I would recommend getting your kids, your group, to the restroom so they don't have to do that after you get all ready and set to get on the wall, because you don't want to have climbing shoes in the bathroom. Okay, that comes back to that hygiene thing that we were just talking about. Probably 100 people before you, most likely, stepped into those shoes. And that's why I would recommend wearing some thin socks. Whenever I am using rental shoes, I like to have some thin socks on to add a second layer between my foot and the shoe. Climbing shoes need to fit snugly. Climbing shoes need to fit snug, but not painful. That will come later after you get really serious into climbing and you're willing to sacrifice your foot comfort for just a little bit of an edge. And you don't need to worry about that, especially when you're just going to the climbing gym for the first time. Let's see, this pair goes here. I got some random shoes. I hope I can find those sets. Yikes. Once you have those climbing shoes on, they're going to go over orientation, they're going to go over the rules. One of those things that they're going to go over most likely, especially if it's a bouldering gym, which is fantastic for kids if they follow that no running rule, falling. So the proper way to fall is land feet first, knees bent, arms crossed in front of your chest, tuck your chin and roll. I would practice that because as you are climbing, if you're not flying, you're not trying. So you want to get to the point where you're actually falling off of the wall because you're trying so hard. And when you fall off of the wall, if you've practiced it, you don't have to think too much about it when you're in that situation. It just comes a little bit more naturally. Biggest thing that you need to worry about as a caretaker bringing kids to the climbing gym is other climbers landing on those kids or those kids landing on somebody else. That would be a bad thing. Always be aware of your surroundings when you are in a climbing gym and be aware of those fall zones. If that climber above falls off, they're going to take him out and it's not going to be pretty. We're almost done. I got to do one other thing outside. I'm going to bring you out there with me and we'll continue talking about this. This is my dad's old Jeep and it has served a great purpose. And just like this Jeep has had its glory days, I want you to be able to go to the climbing gym and have a successful experience and maybe not be, forgotten. It's a pretty good looking beard. In this last section, I'm going to talk about some techniques, some pointers for beginner climbers to use, plus my favorite, all-time favorite game to play with kids at a climbing gym. This is a group of kids. It is the best. I love it. So let's get into that. As you are climbing, just like a vehicle needs wheels, that's its foundation. Our foundation is our feet. And sometimes we can forget that when we get onto a climbing wall. You need to use your feet. This Jeep mirror is working pretty good, I'd say. You're not just going to be able to use your feet most of the time. You also need to use your hands. So to make it easier on you, try to climb with your arms straight and put that motion a little bit more into your shoulders and keeping your arms straight. Obviously, you're not going to be keeping your arms straight the entire time, but the more you're like this, the less time you're going to have. But if you climb like this and move a little bit more from your shoulders, you're going to be able to do a lot more stuff and climb more. Well, I think that turned out pretty good. So first of the year, I always trim down my beard to being really short. Feels fresh, and the first of the year should feel fresh. And that's why one of the reasons that I think that you should take your kids to a climbing gym, something fresh, exciting, that they can experience maybe for the first time and really change their life in a positive way. I know that it's changed my life in a positive way. Now, I promised you to talk about my absolute favorite game to do with the kids, and we're gonna do that right now. This old printer's been in storage for way too long. I don't even know if it's gonna work, but we'll get it up there. Oh, there's my box that I was looking for, yay! Back in the day when I was starting out this channel, this was a box that I made that was everything I needed to do YouTube. This opened up, I have, oh, it's still in here too, that's great. This is my tripod that I used. It's a really awesome tripod. And then I had this light, this little cube light. All right, enough sidetrack. Let's talk about that game. This game that is the funnest to play with kids, in my opinion, is called Capture the Hold. Now, if I have any of my kids that I worked with in Clarksville Climbing Gym watching this, please comment down below how much you love this game. This is a super fun game, and you want to take a section of the wall where there's a lot of holds and you have a big jug on both ends. That jug, the starting hold usually for another climb, is going to be the home base for each team. You have one on each side. Now, you have a line of climbers. The first climber can touch the first hold, the home base hold, get on the wall, and then start climbing to each other. Now, once those climbers meet each other on the wall, they need to play rock, paper, scissors on the wall. The loser jumps off, gets back in their line as soon as that teammate is off of the wall because they lost the rock, paper, scissors, or if they fell, the next teammate in place then starts and climbs to meet the opponent. The goal is for one team to get all the way to the other side and touch that starting hold for the other team. And they're now the winners. Comment down below if there's anything that you think that I missed on this and whether this was helpful for you. I hope that it was. I'll see you next time right here on Climber Dad.